Display. Hello. What's happening? Okay. Something. This should be accessible from within and this common. Oh, yeah. Password. Hey. Now what did I do? Now go back screen. Just work. Hey? It's weird. Okay, it's not showing.
Before that, Sonia's more difficult dilemmas around the human body in the body politic.
Hello?
Yeah. This is Sean, a single dad with his 2-year-old daughter. Growing up gay in Ireland, he never expected to have a baby. Today he lives in London, where he works in education. His life has been transformed by the birth of me through surrogacy.
That felt very strange because you go from kind of nothing to then and have this baby, but you go from having 0% retirement to 100% overnight.
Sean and Neve aren't their real names. He was happy to tell us their story, but wants to protect his daughter's privacy. Choosing whether and when to have children is a big decision for anyone, but Sean had more to think about than most. He needed to find a woman to donate an egg to create an embryo with his sperm, and another willing to carry his baby for 9 months and then give her to him after the birth. A choice that simply wouldn't have been possible a few decades ago, before the dawn of fertility medicine and the liberalisation of social attitudes towards non-traditional families. I'm Sonia Soda, a columnist for The Observer, and this is The Body Politic. In this series, I'll be exploring the ethical dilemmas that arise when societies decide to enable or restrict choices like Sean's. What I really believe in, I guess, is modern autonomy. Children are not places, they have their own life. Choices that relate to life, it was a gift, and I use my body, and death.
I am the captain of my soul, I am the master of my fate.
Over 3 episodes, we'll explore debates over bioethics that are spilling over into the political sphere, putting bodily autonomy firmly on the agenda, not just for thinkers and philosophers, but for politicians, regulators, and decision-makers in the UK and around the world. In later programmes, we'll come on to the dilemmas facing women in pregnancy as they go for prenatal screening. And we'll delve deep into the highly topical debates on assisted dying. As a feminist on the left, I've written on these issues before, but I'm keen keeping an open mind in this series as I hear views from all sides and stories, some emotional, of people's own experiences. We start with surrogacy. We told her the story of the king and queen who couldn't have a baby and another beautiful lady helped. Choices over whether and how to begin life in the first place. And my tummy was sick, but her tummy
What's
wasn't.
happening
Should
here?
a woman be able to
I have
carry
no
and give birth
idea.
to a baby to someone else? And who gets to decide? As society has changed, the age-old desire to have children is manifesting itself in new ways. A new family unit, like Sean and me.
For me, I thought, oh, I really want a child. I'm not certain it's
Why is it?
in that
Another
way area.
going.
There's also how to carry that. The parent of the child, the child gets to life. I have a lot of really nice reactions. Slowly, very grand, very welcoming, very people very welcoming. Her, often on the book, people would say, oh, you're getting one with Ray. I just don't get into it. I go, yeah, I get it right.
A tiny number of British children are born through surrogacy, fewer than 1 in 1,000 babies. But it's in the political spotlight because the legal framework that governs it is complicated and messy, and a campaign for reform is gaining momentum. When a British child is born through surrogacy, the surrogate is the legal mother at birth. The person or couple she's carrying the baby for, the intended parents in the jargon, have to apply to a judge for an order that transfers parenting over to them. It's a bit like adoption in that sense. Rose's surrogacy campaign is for the intended parents to be the legal parents from the get-go. The last Conservative government asked an independent law commission in England and Wales and Scotland to review the framework. In 2023, they set out a proposed overhaul of UK surrogacy law, strengthening the rights of intended parents. The recommendations have mobilised people on both sides of the debate. Helen Gibson is a feminist activist. In the wake of the Law Commission proposals, she set up a new organisation, Surrogacy Concern. The general public didn't seem to know that this was happening. This could end up going through without widespread consultation. And I wanted to make sure that from outside this feminist ecosystem, as it were, far more members of the public were aware of actually how surrogacy works today and what it means in practice. Ministers in Keir Starmer's government have met Law Commission representatives and are considering whether to take to Parliament. The prospect of imminent reform has ignited the surrogacy debate, opening up some big themes. Should the state encourage a practice some see as exploitative, reducing the gestation of children to a service or a transaction? Or is surrogacy about equality, the right to build a family, including for LGBT parents? Is it, at heart, a debate about sex and biology, women's bodies and the role of a mother? We'll explore all these things as we go. Let's hear first from one of surrogacy's most passionate advocates.
I'm Michael Johnson Ellis, and I'm one of the co-founders of My Surrogacy Journey, one of the UK's non-profit surrogacy organisations.
Michael began his own surrogacy journey in 2012 when he met his now husband Wes.
The conversation of wanting a family was something that we tackled fairly early, and the conversation of how we would build that family was very much all geared towards surrogacy. It was really evident that there was a shortage of surrogates, and none of the organisations were taking on any parents at the time. So we began a journey really of research and investigation.
As Michael and Wes were trawling the internet, so was a woman living many miles away in the Lancashire town of Burnley.
This is so
Caroline
confusing.
already had 4 children and was surrogacy curious. And was aware that there was lots of
I tried this one a long time ago, and I managed to work it, but I completely forgot. Completely forgotten.
Felt quite lucky. And then as my younger
Okay, maybe delete this. Delete. Are you sure you want to remove video capture? Yes.
My children are well
Now
enough to
add it
understand.
again.
So I kind of started looking and
Video.
investigating lots of forums and Facebook groups.
So Caroline approached us, actually. There was a website that was quite popular where surrogates would build a profile, and parents would build a profile, and should fall.
And it says make source visible.
That I initially made contact with. A dating website, but it's not. So like a matching website, and I had a phone conversation, and we went there, and we spent about the first year just building that relationship, just becoming friends really more than anything. Caroline offered to be a surrogate for Michael and Wes. How did her husband David feel? Very, very shocked to start with. But he was probably used to just going doing what I want to do. An embryo using Michael's sperm and a donor egg was created at a clinic in Manchester and transferred into Caroline's womb. It was absolutely perfect. The pregnancy itself was a perfect pregnancy. Tallulah was born in 2016, but the hospital wasn't used to surrogacy. They didn't actually have a surrogate policy in place, so they kind of scrambled this one together, which basically meant that Michael couldn't be there at birth.
Right now there is
Tallulah,
vision,
David, my husband, would be carer for Tallulah up until the point that she was able to leave hospital, and then David, who was dad, would take her and give it to Michael and was in the car park, which was just not acceptable to any of us. Not how any parent would imagine first meeting their baby. They got the hospital to change its stance. In the end, they were great. They were really, really good. They enabled my husband to be there in the theatre to support me, and Michael was there at the birth to take care of Tallulah as soon as she was born. They were then given a room where they could start to bond with Tallulah. Then they were allowed to just leave with Tallulah. They were absolutely. It was all a very happy time. It was also a positive experience for Caroline, so much so she offered to carry another child from Michael and Wes, giving birth to their son Duke in 2019. It was only health advice that stopped her doing it a third time. I'm older. It takes longer for your body to get back to normal following a birth. As you get older, I've had 2 cesareans, so they do recommend that you don't have any more pregnancies. I don't think any anybody would support a further pregnancy with 2 cesareans, but I would have liked to do it. 2 pregnancies and 2 cesareans. A lot to go through after having 4 children of her own. Why did she do it? One of my purposes of being here is help. You can't describe the feeling because it's an unbelievable gift, isn't it? And it is not just for David, it's a family. Others take a different view of Caroline's choice. Campaigner Helen Gibson questions whether it's something women should be able to consent to at all. It is not women's responsibility to solve the infertility of others, however sad that might be. And I'd like young women to understand that we are all of us certified nowadays to
let's see.
And you don't have to share your age with anyone, and you don't have to share your fertility out with anyone. You don't have to pay it forward. The female body is at the heart of this complex debate, with women who describe themselves as feminists pitted against each other. Here's Caroline again. It's the woman's choice.
Oh my God.
Somebody else saying, well, you can't do that with your body. What's that all about?
So
Tell you what you can't do with your body.
Yeah, let's put down
It's that governments do often step in to regulate what people can and can't do with their bodies. And that's at the heart of what we're exploring in the body politic. There are all sorts of scenarios that we don't allow because we say they are too dangerous, too unethical, and too fraught with risk. Helen Gibson, again, from surrogacy concerns, you cannot sell a kidney, for example. There are all sorts of choices that government says individuals should not be able to take, or roads they should not be able to pursue. Britain is the outlier here. Our European neighbours, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Switzerland, Finland, don't allow any surrogacy at all. Sean, Michael and Wes all perceive surrogacy as gay men who wouldn't otherwise have had biological children. But surrogacy has long been used by women with fertility issues too. Oh, you look so happy. This is Mary Siri Carney, a barrister from Ireland. All my life I've known that there was going to be an issue. My doctors telling me there wasn't. I felt in my own body and my own response that I was going to have a problem having babies. And when my husband and I, when we got married, there was no sign of a natural pregnancy. We went through a number of IVFs, we did 13 and all.
So did you capture a bit close?
Miscarriages. Remember at one stage writing a whole page of, I just want a hysterectomy and I want it gone. I don't want this organ that is useless in my body. I'm so angry at my womb. I'm angry at how it has let me down. But I couldn't imagine life. In my head, I had a vision of me with a child. And whether it was hopeful imagination or destiny or what, I don't know. This is not going to happen. Mary's husband suggested surrogacy, but there was no legal framework for it in Ireland at the time. They started looking abroad. There aren't many countries that explicitly permit surrogacy. In the handful that do, there's a spectrum of different models. Some, like the UK, have what's called an altruistic model, where women can't be paid a fee to carry a baby, just expenses. That's also the system in Canada, where Sean found his surrogate. Other countries like the US, Georgia, and Ukraine allow commercial surrogacy, where women can be paid. Ukraine is where Mary and her husband first went in 2013, long before the war. They picked an agency that looked responsible and started the process. But out of the blue, I was literally going into court when I got an email that said, surrogate-led pregnancy over. And that's how I was notified. And later, I discovered that the clinic that we were going to was prosecuted a few years later for human rights violations. This experience shows how hard it can be for intended parents to check there are safeguards in place, and how they themselves could be vulnerable to exploitation. But Mary didn't give up. She started looking at India, then a big centre of commercial surrogacy. It's since been banned there. She found a fertility clinic that connected her with a surrogate in Mumbai. We met her. We had our own translator with us. So we chatted in as far as we could, and then the procedure went on. At that stage, we went through all of the normal IVF procedures, and then there was embryo transfer. And what was your relationship with her like? Well, we had a language barrier, and then you have a cultural barrier, so that was difficult to negotiate. And so then we came home to Ireland, and she was still in Mumbai, so we sent parcels every month, we sent voice messages, we sent videos, they sent videos, but our relationship didn't really, in the way that you see UK surrogates and their families, our relationship didn't blossom beyond that, and we don't have any kind of contact. We did for a little while, but we don't have any kind of contact. And are you comfortable that in terms of your own arrangement that the surrogate was not exploited? You were comfortable with that arrangement? In so far as I could carry out due diligence and I could speak with my surrogate independently and away from anyone to do with the clinic, we attempted to at best discharge our duties for her well-being and care. Commendably honest with Mary, she did her best to ensure that the surrogate was not being pressured, coerced, or financially exploited. But critics of surrogacy say due diligence can only take you so far in understanding where this is happening. This is something I've observed in my reporting on safeguarding and exploitation. Michael and Wes are pursuing international surrogacy to have a third child in Mexico City. Their agency helps other intended parents do it there too. In fact, they created a whole new pathway. How does Michael ensure Mexican women aren't being exploited?
In Mexico City, there's certain regulations that mean that any surrogate that is deemed a surrogate in Mexico City has to be from that region. And they have to go through, with our organisation, quite strict social and economic assessments to ensure that this woman is not in poverty and is not doing this to survive, as well as then going through various health and identity checks to ensure that they are fit and well to carry a pregnancy.
I asked Michael how much a surrogate in Mexico could expect to be paid.
So a typical surrogate in Mexico would be compensated in the region of $16,000 to $18,000 which is a similar average sum to what case surrogates are reimbursed and now expensive.
And if somebody said to you, gosh, that actually just doesn't sound like very much for carrying a baby for 9 months, what would your response to that be?
16 to 18,000 US dollars in Mexico is a life-changing sum of money, and it's a sum which the surrogate and the lawyers all agree on. Our organisation goes above and beyond what most do, because we want to make sure that no surrogate is being coerced into doing this purely for the money. In commercial destinations, money is often a motivating factor for choosing to be a surrogate. You know, when you're looking at the US, where there are surrogates naming $90,000 to $120,000 to carry a pregnancy.
Well, do you think that's okay?
No, I don't think that's okay at all. No, I think that there's exploitation on all parts when you're looking at surrogacy if this isn't managed in an ethical and a reasonable manner. And that's why Mexico City really gorgeous blend of altruism and a commercial model, because there really is this desire to want to help someone have a child, but in the process of this being paid for that.
Some question whether you can truly blend altruism with the commercial when you're paying a woman in a much poorer country than yours a life-changing amount of money. In 2018, the UN Special Rapporteur voiced strong concerns about surrogacy involving payment, warning that wealthy parents engaging women to be surrogates in poor countries paves the way for exploitation. In the summer of 2015, Mary Sirikani was back in Mumbai, and we sat outside the theatre ready for our daughter to be born, and the nurse came out and handed me my baby girl. And you're thinking, my goodness, this is real, this is my baby. And it was incredible. And when we came home, home from the hospital to the hotel, all of the staff at the hotel lined up outside, and they anointed me and anointed the baby, and it was magical. But when Mary brought her daughter Scarlett back to Ireland, she had to reckon with the legal system at home. Mary's husband, Scarlett's biological father, was her legal parent, but there was no route for Mary to be recognised as her mother under Irish law. I have no legal relationship to her. We are legal strangers to each other. The coldness of the fact that I was irrelevant was all too present. Any consents, preschool, signing those forms, Girl Guides, any of those forms, you can't sign as parent. When you're prohibited from that, you feel less than a parent. We need no more delays. We need political will. Mary was in a position to do something about it. It is time this was published. And what I didn't tell you earlier is that she's a member of the Irish Senate. She pushed for law change, allying with LGBT campaigners, and won. In 2024, the Irish Parliament passed an act legalising surrogacy, bringing Ireland close to the British model. It allows women like Mary to be retrospectively recognised as their children's parents. When the day comes that I walk out of the High Court with that piece of paper, then my journey of fertility will finally be concluded, and I will have made it. I mean, in Ireland, I know you say mummy, but we say mammy. I am mammy, and I need closure. The surrogacy debate has split feminists and realigned politics away from the traditional right-left axis. Mary Sirikani from the centre-right Fine Gael party worked with colleagues from across the political spectrum. She sees her campaign as part of a wave of liberalising reform in Ireland, which included the legalisation of abortion and same-sex marriage, sweeping aside the traditions of a conservative Catholic country. Helen Gibson, left-wing, also pro-choice on abortion, has found herself aligned with social conservatives on surrogacy. She agrees with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, whose right-wing government has gone as far as criminalising couples who use international surrogacy.
Would I agree with Giorgia Meloni on many other matters of policy? Domestic and international? No, probably not. But if somebody is going to advocate to tighten the law or bring a ban into practice on surrogacy, then that is to be welcomed. And I think we're in danger of the left assuming that surrogacy is progressive, and actually it's exactly the opposite.
Helen Gibson is part of a network of radical feminists calling for an international ban on surrogacy. We're at a conference in London where this is on the agenda. One of the keynote speakers is 33-year-old Olivia Morale, who we caught up with afterwards. She's French, but grew up internationally. She says she learned when she was young that she was born in the US state of Kentucky.
I grew up knowing something was off because my mother was older, was different. She didn't look like me. She didn't sound like me. So I was in a lot of past systems. Even one day when I asked the age of my mother, she didn't respond. So, kept building up in my head. And then one day I kind of stuck into her bag and I looked at her identity card and I saw her age and I knew that she couldn't be my mother. And so at like 17 years old, I kind of, everything was going nuts around me, drugs, alcohol, whatever. And I sat down, I remember, with my computer and I started Googling the place I was born in the United States, so Louisville, Kentucky. And I saw advertisements for surrogacy agencies, fertility clinics. And I remember that whole entire night I spent on my on my computer researching on surrogacy and what it was. And then I just knew. I knew I was going by surrogacy. I didn't tell my parents though, because I was scared of their reaction. I was scared they would reject me. And it's only at 30 years old when my mother-in-law, my husband's mother, gets in with a DNA test that I had the physical, tangible proof that I was literally born by surrogacy through another mother.
Olivia went public with her discovery on social media, provoking a rift with her parents.
I think they thought I was fighting against them. And I was doing this coming out in revenge against them. But I wasn't angry against my parents. I was angry against the system. And so we haven't been talking since 2023, so it's been about a year or so that I haven't talked to my parents.
Meanwhile, she tracked down her surrogate mother and went to meet her.
I asked her how did our first separation go. I wanted to know how the birth went and what happened at birth. And she told me, gave birth, the nurse came, took me away, put me in a little basket, cooking me. And she told me, and she remembers very well, that my little head turned and that I looked at her straight in the eyes. And she told me that was the last time I saw you. And when she told me that, it took me a while to get over it.
Olivia is now happily married and a mother herself. But she struggled for years with mental health problems she's convinced stem from that traumatic separation at birth.
To study the maternal fetal bond, there's like thousands of scientific documents saying that the baby inside the womb smells his mother, he hears her heartbeat, hears her voice, he knows her. And so when he comes out of the womb, that's who he's going to look for. So the separation of the mother and baby at birth causes the trauma of abandonment, the trauma of rejection.
Olivia's experience is hard to hear. There are aspects not likely to be typical today. She says her parents weren't upfront with her about how she was conceived, which isn't considered best practice now. But she clearly believes being separated from her birth mother harmed her. The truth is, there's very little research on the long-term impact of surrogacy on children. A study that followed 40 children born through surrogacy in the UK 20 years ago found they were generally well adjusted. But one of the academics involved has cautioned against generalising those findings to surrogacy today. Olivia says she's met other children damaged through surrogacy who are frightened to speak out.
They can't talk because they're scared of losing their parents like I did. And so I get them. I understand. You don't want to be abandoned the second time.
That sense of abandonment feels a million miles away from Mary's joy at holding Scarlett for the first time. Surrogacy really can take in the broadest range of human emotions. Olivia was born through traditional surrogacy. Her surrogate used her own egg for the pregnancy and is her biological as well as her birth mother. That's not the norm now. Intended parents are much more likely to use a separate egg donor in what's called gestation.
Give me a second.
Michael and Wes's surrogate, Caroline, explains why it's the only thought she could. I didn't want to meet my own ex. I didn't want a child related to my children. Although I do have a very good relationship with children and Jude, I wouldn't want my children thinking they've got a sibling when they don't. Gestational surrogacy comes with higher risk to the women carrying the baby. They were explained to Caroline, the consultant at the IVF clinic. Probably did have some conversations like that with me, but I don't think I've done my own research and knew that if my body wants to carry this baby, it's a good body. It works well. As well as using donor eggs, Caroline opted for cesarean births for Tallulah and Jude instead of the natural labour she'd had with her own children. Alina knew how I would feel, so yeah, I didn't want the birth process. I didn't want any of the hormone release that comes with a natural birth. I didn't want to be in labour with two men who were my husband. How did you feel after the birth? Relieved that I'd done it. I felt happy that they had their baby that they waited so long for. Didn't feel like somebody was leaving off with my baby. Caroline didn't see her role as providing a maternal bond in pregnancy. It wasn't parental, but that wasn't the point. She and Michael point to a different role she plays now as a close friend in the extended family she helped create. We've heard such different perspectives on the role of gestation and surrogacy. Some, like Olivia, see carrying a baby as an emotional as well as a physical relationship. And that view is reinforced by the health advice to pregnant women to talk to and bond with their babies. Surrogacy asks us to see gestation more as a physical process. So a baby's relationship with its parents begins at birth. We don't need to worry about breaking any maternal fetal bond. How did Mary view Charlotte's gestation?
It is a very peculiar situation for me that someone else was carrying my baby, someone else was feeling my baby kick.
How did you feel about that?
So I went through a stage of feeling, I don't know, is it impotent and angry with your own body and yet hopeful.
It was all the more important to Mary to establish a maternal bond as soon as Scarlett was born.
I sat nursing, holding her and touching her, and there was talking how to feed her, and because you didn't have any prenatal classes when you're not pregnant yourself, but we bonded instantly. It felt incredibly natural, and it felt like I had been always born and destined for this moment.
Motherhood takes different forms, of course. But here's another question. Surrogacy makes it possible to bring children into the world who might have an abundance of brilliant fathering, but who will grow up without a mother. Does that matter? Helen Gibson thinks so.
Why is it deliberately set out to remove or deny one of the most important of all human relationships? And most people would say that aside from their lifelong relationship with their domestic partner and their spouse, the relationship with their mother is usually the most important of their lives.
I put this to Michael Johnson Ellis.
In cases where you've got a single lifestyle surrogacy or a gay male couple, some people might question whether it's right that you have a child and there's no monitor in their lives. Do you agree that that's an issue?
It was in 1942. I think that's a ridiculous question, and the fact that two men want to raise a child and all of the love first, I think that's only it's families like mine.
Hello. What's in there?
To give a child a loving home and have two parents.
Hello to the 3 million people. How's everyone? I'm just testing this software. It's called OBS. So
whether mothers perform such an important role that we should think carefully about conceiving children without one in their lives. There are well-established studies that highlight differences in the way
I've used this before, but
women on average spend more time
it was a long time ago, so I'm trying to
Some would say these are
get used to this again.
And anyway, these differences are socially constructed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Or something.
I can't help but feel differently about women children without fathers than men doing so without mothers. I was apprehensive about saying this to Sean.
Anyone had these jackfruit chips?
I'm not challenged. Not just challenged by a woman.
I got this from Philippines.
And then
Last year, last August, I bought this in Philippines. And they're really good.
the ideal sound the child is taught at single time.
Mm.
I mean, the way it still comes down to it,
So
the question
crunchy.
is it better for the child to live and say, we have a father, or not to control?
Is it better for this child to exist? It's a fundamental question. And so many children born through surrogacy are wanted and loved. The question of how they arise in the world is navigated. As long as there's openness about their origins.
It's really important that any child born through surrogacy or that
Change
is
this
open
one.
knows where they're from.
Oh, God.
I think we advocate for transparency and honesty when it comes to understanding culture. We're very transparent in our family. I'm not genetically linked to my son. He knows that. He knows that he was born through an ecto that was carried by a woman. He's 5 years old. He gets it. He's fine with it.
Complicated concepts for a 5-year-old, with a level of openness that's today considered to be very important. Senator Mary Siri Carney plans to take her daughter Scarlett to India to learn more about her origins.
We are very proud of the fact that she was born in Mumbai. When she is 12 or 13, we will bring her to Mumbai. We want her to be able to appreciate everything, both the poverty and the wealth, to be able to be mature enough to take that on board. So we told her about India. We informed ourselves about Indian cultures and as far as we possibly could, so that she would cherish where she was born.
Westminster now faces a big decision. Should the government take forward the Law Commission proposals, which move us from a legal framework that tolerates domestic surrogacy to one that actively encourages it? The reforms wouldn't change the way the law works for people going abroad for surrogacy, but they're explicitly designed to incentivize doing surrogacy in the UK instead. Agencies would be allowed to advertise for women to become surrogates. That's currently banned. The proposals also tighten up the rules on expenses payments. But the biggest change relates to something Michael Johnson Ellis has been campaigning for.
The current legislation is out of date. Surrogacy should be treated as a form of reproductive medicine.
Reproductive medicine, like IVF. I think it's that ethical view that has shaped where the Law Commission has got to. They proposed a new pathway that would treat surrogacy more like IVF than adoption, under which parents would be pre-approved by surrogacy agencies. Gestation would no longer be linked to legal parents. Parents would automatically be the legal parents at birth, unless the surrogate withdraws the consent in the first 6 weeks. The Law Commission's reasoning is that children are almost always in the care of their intended parents from birth, but critics like Helen Gibson are concerned.
Window capture.
Proposal switch the balance between the surrogate mother to the commissioning parent.
Got it.
It removes the family court from oversight of surrogacy arrangements on a new pathway. It removes the fact that social workers who currently write to report to the family court judge.
I've written about my own concerns about removing the family court from the process. Judges are hugely experienced professionals used to making weighty decisions about child welfare. Under the Law Commission proposals, surrogacy agencies would be required to run welfare checks on potential parents. They would be much less
I got it. I worked
Having
about
been
that
through the
one out.
family court process recently,
Okay.
Sean would welcome it being speeded up, but he doesn't think it should be got rid of altogether.
I think the rules around surrogacy for everybody shouldn't actually, because I don't see the fact that you take on reference from private and then to the best interest assessment. That all seems fine. I don't think that should be scaled down because it's a very complicated issue, and there are 3 sets of rights to say for it usually made over, surrogate parent or parent between the parent and their child. And any agreement is going to take account of I think quite handy way to go for people's rights. It's going to be complicated.
Indeed, it's complicated. And government ministers embarking on these
Why is not
would
playing
have
this
to take
thing?
accountable of these
Is
sometimes
it available?
competing rights. Within this messy mix, I wondered, do you think people have got the right to have children?
No, because I was creating a third house, right? So you don't have the right. You probably do have a right not to be unreasonable. Any interference with your right to consensually create a child would mean pretty heavy justification. One of the things that many want to do.
Sean again. And Olivia Morel, who was born through surrogacy.
Anyone is allowed to want to build a family. You know, at 26 years old, I wanted to get pregnant really early, actually. I went to my gynecologist and I have severe endometriosis. And so he told me, he sat me down and he said, Olivia, you know, it's kind of everywhere, so you might not be able to have children. And at the point in time, I sat with my husband and I was like, what do we do? You know? And so I remember at one point his head said, okay, I'm going to go through surgery. Never, ever. It's either I didn't have children or I had children. One or the other. But we can't put people's desires above children's rights and women's rights. There is no right to have a child.
Same question for Michael Johnson Ellis.
Do I use human rights? Yes, I do. But I'm sure that's not a surprise. If we're looking through the lens of someone who is unable to have a child themselves, either through infertility or not being able to carry a pregnancy, and they so desperately want to have a child and would be a tremendous parent, then I think that is a right to be a parent, and that is a right to have reproductive medicine as a way to build your family. Just like if you were to have an environmental condition, you could argue that does that person have less rights because of their condition. So I do feel quite strongly that everyone should have a right to have a family, providing they build it in a safe and respectful way, ensuring that the welfare of that child is safeguarded at all costs.
That's what I think this issue really comes down to. If you're not able to carry a baby yourself, you have the right to contract a woman to carry one for you. Is it something the state should encourage, maybe tolerate, as Britain does today, or even ban altogether, as some other countries have done? My own feelings, I don't think it's right to create babies with the intention of separating them from their birth mother. Put me in camp toleration. But I have to acknowledge, that might mean fewer people with this in their lives.
If there is reshape my family, my friends, yeah, I didn't know any of these right that was
I recognise for my own family the profound joy children bring, not just to parents, but others around us.
I think you like boys Christmas made energy to all these networks the social activities offering. It just and it feels cycles continue. That's quite a nice feeling, I think. And I think that's why the Christmas story is spoken so much when you arrive at this poor child. Invigorates the whole world.
This episode of The Body Politic has been about the ethical choices involved in creating lives that wouldn't otherwise exist. Next time we'll be looking at pre-birth screening and dilemmas about whether or not to end a life before it opens it up.
And develop an attitude towards pregnancy and towards life itself, which expects to be in control. And the fact is that we're not in control of the child. I'm a man, I'm never going to be pregnant. I can only stand in my experience as a father, a beautiful girl who has Down syndrome, and say that her life is worth living.
Join me for the next episode for more questions about life and death in the political sphere.
The Body Politic was presented by Sandra Soder. The producer was Vera Padmanabhan. The program was first broadcast in January.
Jan, wake up! A dark comic thriller. Sesame Street? I don't care. A stolen identity and a quick career change. It's not hard being a Benson.
This is my team, and we get everything done with Monday.com. Sarah is a senior project manager, and she has never missed a deadline. She uses Monday.com so every project she leads goes.
Oh, I gotta. That's cool, it's working now.
President Trump says he's increasing global trade tariffs
Right.
to 50%. The announcement was approved early yesterday after the Supreme Court, but some of the other tariffs were illegal. National emergency law. Sam Lowe, an international trade consultant, says it's not currently clear how businesses will be affected.
As of right now, you don't necessarily know what that's going to mean in terms of tariffs and supplies for the goods you're sending to the US next week. And that's a huge problem, and it doesn't just impact big businesses, it obviously impacts small businesses as well. They just don't know.
Former Conservative Prime Minister Boris Johnson says the UK and its allies send troops to Ukraine against the pressure of Russia to reduce Johnson says soldiers shouldn't be involved in combat in those areas. The defence says the UK army has made it clear British troops will be on the ground following the end of the war. The committee of MPs says it will consider ways to look into the role of UK trade airports following the arrest of Ambassador Milton and allegations of misconduct in office. All unregistered ministers denied wrongdoing in relation to the fixing of the FC. Business and Trade Committee says it will wait until the end of the vote. North Wales Police says the bodies of two men aged 19 and 20 covered on Savannah Snowden. After rescuers and Coast Guard crew were called in to help in the search after concerns were raised about the welfare of the pair on Wednesday. NASA says its Artemis 2 mission around the moon is likely delayed. The technical fault was found. Last off has been scheduled for the 6th of March following a successful.
We all make mistakes. Some stand out more than others. When you play in a world-class orchestra, playing with precision, it says, playing a tune is a given, not an aspiration. The United States, and actually today around the rest of the world, we have a word for it. Children.
Quaker is an official sponsor of Team GB, and rightly so. After all, the rowing team's motto is Oats Move Boats. But why stop there? Team GB, if you're listening, try these on for size. Quaker sachets move bob sleighs. Ugly bowl forward roll. Not for a gymnast. The world's your stage when you eat some beige. You can just stick to Oats Move Boats. Quaker, deliciously real, deliciously ugly sponsor of Team GB.
Smoothly, fluently, the rallies are going really well. I hardly have to think about what I'm doing. Well, I'm practicing so long. Over a very long period of time as a young man, I built up my expertise with many thousands of hours of dedicated practice. And then, Some people, those iron ones, relatively discreet. Also, the Don Fox, whose long, rugby league career was split between Featherstone Rovers and Wakefield Trinity. It's not generally remembered. 485 matches played, or 1,714 points scored. But rather, the 1968 Challenge Cup final on Wembley between Leeds and Wakefield Trinity, it was going Leeds' way for the final minute.
I'm Linda, proud mum of Team GB's Emily Campbell. I know from watching my daughter through the years, the slog of training can get ugly. That's why Quaker is the perfect sponsor for Team GB. Because even though their porridge looks flipping ugly, it's the ugly stuff, the real stuff, that fuels us. Quaker, deliciously real, deliciously ugly, sponsor of Team GB.
So-called tunes played right in front of the posts. But this was the first time we played at Wembley with a television audience of millions. I thought I got a bit of all was wet. What you do is you wind the drums in, but I don't look. He was saturated. The ball was wet. He was wet, and he didn't know what to do.
I don't know.
The third agency of government, I would do away with the education,
Let's see. A business can say, that was we also do this nice sherry Hanson's cut glass, and it comes complete, 6 glasses on a silver-plated tray up with you in, serve your drinks on, and it's only costing £4.95. People say to me, how can you sell this at such a low price?
Yes, I don't have to show her. Anyway, I guess I kind of know what to do now. If I want to stream my video, you just stick
This
that.
is what it looks like when you say yes to TUI. To flying when it suits you with TUI or a partner airline. To a hand-picked TUI hotel where everything's taken care of. To an adults-only trip where having fun is the only rule. Click to say yes to an adults-only getaway today. TUI, ATOL and ABTA protected.
Save time with the 3 2 1s of Xero by customizing invoices and getting paid. 3. Easily create your invoice. 2. Add your online payment options. And 1. Send off your customized invoice to the world. That's how it's done. Try Xero free today.
Change the size of the screen.
People sometimes say that experts don't show. Truth is completely reverse. It's only experts that have the capacity to show.
Scale to randomize. Oh, done now. So I can use this.
Quaker is an official sponsor of Team GB, and rightly so. After all, the rowing team's motto is Oats, Move Boats. But why stop there? Team GB, if you're listening, try these on for size. Quaker sachets, move bob sleighs. Ugly bowl, forward roll. One for the gymnasts. The world's your stage when you eat some beige. Maybe just stick to Oats, Move Boats. Quaker. Deliciously real, deliciously ugly sponsor of Team GB.
This is a society of the truth, the modern, conservative ideas built. The locals say that they will set the problem on fire instead of lost. They choke. Let's talk to our chief fiscal correspondent, Tom Cup. Positive. Hey, John. Well,
Anyway, I'm going to end the live now. This is a test, and now I know what to do. So whatever is in the background, I can see there's two. Thank you for joining. This is just a test, really. So now I know what to do next time. This is just a test, really. So now I know what to do next time. It's very noisy. So, alright, thank you so much for joining. Like I said, this is just a test.